The rescue team found the wreckage on the third moon of Cathera Prime, half buried in frozen methane snow. The distress beacon had died 6 days ago. Protocol dictated they catalog the debris, recover the black box, and move on. No one survived a week in sub-zero temperatures without life support, but Commander Zethric of the Galactic Rescue Corps had learned never to underestimate humans. The ship, what remained of it, was a mangled sculpture of twisted metal and shattered composite plating. The entire starboard side had been torn away during atmospheric entry. Scorch marks painted a story of desperation. Emergency thrusters fired too late, hull integrity failing, systems dying one by one. Life signs? Zethric's antennae twitched as he scanned the crash site. His second officer, a crystalline Vex named Shara, consulted her data pad. Negative. Wait, her facets refracted confusion. I'm detecting heat concentrated inside the cargo bay. They approached cautiously. The cargo bay door hung at an angle, barely attached. Zethric pried it open with his combat suit's enhanced strength. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his long life. Commander Lyra Solon sat propped against the bulkhead, her flight suit torn and stained with dried blood. Her left leg was splinted with pieces of hull plating and cargo straps. Her right arm hung useless at her side. But her eyes, those impossibly determined human eyes, were open and alert. And surrounding her, nestled against her body, beneath her functioning arm, tucked into every warm space they could find, were 7 Catheran cubs. The smallest one, no bigger than a human infant, was curled directly beneath her arm, its tiny 6-fingered hands clutching her flight suit. Its fur was the color of twilight, and it made soft chirping sounds in its sleep. Don't. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. Wake them. Zethric stood frozen. Catheran cubs were critically endangered. Their parents had been hunted nearly to extinction for their pelts. These 7 might represent 1/10 of their remaining population. How long? He managed to ask. 6 days, maybe 7. Lyra's lips were cracked and bleeding. Lost count after the fever started. Shara was already scanning. Commander Solon, your core temperature is 34 degrees Celsius. You're in severe hypothermia. Your leg is fractured in 3 places. You have internal bleeding, possible spleen rupture, and— I know, Lyra interrupted softly. Checked myself. Days ago. Then why? Zethric stopped. He knew why. The cargo bay had a single emergency thermal cell. It could maintain survival temperature for one human-sized being for 6 days. Or it could keep 7 small cubs warm for the same period. She had chosen. Found them in the wreckage, Lyra explained, each word an obvious effort. Their transport ship crashed here weeks ago. They were hiding in a cave, starving, scared. She looked down at the smallest cub with something that transcended mere affection. This one, I call him Tavi, wouldn't stop crying. I couldn't just leave them. So you gave them your heat, Zethric said quietly. Not all of it. Lyra managed a ghost of a smile. Shared. Human biology is flexible. We can tolerate more than most species think. That was an understatement bordering on absurdity. Every species in the Galactic Council knew humans were resilient, but this was beyond anything in the medical texts. She had maintained consciousness through conditions that should have killed her 3 times over, had kept 7 fragile lives alive using nothing but her own body heat, sheer will, and whatever scraps she could scavenge. The distress beacon, Shara said suddenly. It died 6 days ago. How did you— Shut it off, Lyra admitted. Needed the power. Rerouted it to the thermal cell. To keep them warm. Zethric felt his blood chill. She had deliberately cut her own lifeline, knowing it might mean no rescue would come, knowing she might die here, alone, on a frozen moon, all to buy these cubs a few more days of warmth. You're insane, he breathed. Maybe. Lyra's eyes drifted closed for a moment, then snapped open with visible effort. But they're alive. That's what matters. Medical team now. Zethric barked into his comm. And bring thermal blankets. 7 small, 1 large. As the medical team swarmed into the cargo bay, they moved with practiced efficiency but unusual care. Even hardened rescue professionals found themselves subdued by what they witnessed. They stabilized Lyra first, IVs, thermal wraps, emergency stimulants to keep her heart beating, but she refused sedation. The cubs, she insisted. Check them first. Commander Solon, you're dying. Then I can wait 5 more minutes. Check the cubs. They did. All 7 were weak but alive. Malnourished but stable. They would recover fully with proper care. Against all probability, against the merciless mathematics of survival, they had made it. But when the medics tried to separate Tavi from Lyra, the cub's eyes shot open and it released a sound that made everyone freeze. A distress cry so piercing, so fundamentally wrong that it transcended species. "It's okay," Lyra whispered, her good hand settling on Tavi's head despite the medic's protests. "It's okay, little one. They're here to help," but Tavi wouldn't let go. Its tiny fingers had locked onto her flight suit with a grip born of pure terror and absolute trust. "Let him stay," Zethric ordered. "Transport them together." During the flight back to the medical frigate, Lyra finally allowed herself to slip into unconsciousness. But even then, even sedated and hovering at death's door, her hand remained curved protectively around the small cub sleeping beneath her arm. The story spread across the galactic network within hours. Commander Lyra Solon, who had sacrificed everything, warmth, safety, her own survival, to protect 7 cubs of a species not her own, who had turned a shattered cargo bay into a sanctuary using nothing but determination and the stubborn human refusal to accept that some situations were impossible. Zethric watched through the medical bay window as doctors worked to save her life. The other 6 cubs had been moved to proper incubators, but Tavi remained. The medical team had quickly learned that separating them caused both cub and human dangerous levels of stress. "Will she survive?" Shara asked quietly. "She's human," Zethric said, and for the first time in his career he found himself believing in miracles. "She's already done 6 impossible things." "What's one more?" 3 weeks later, Commander Lyra Solon was released from medical care. Her leg would heal. Her arm would function again. The internal injuries had been repaired, and Tavi, the smallest cub with twilight-colored fur, refused to leave her side. The Catharan Preservation Committee tried to explain that cubs needed to be with their own kind, in proper facilities, with trained caregivers, but every time they separated them, Tavi would cry that same soul-shattering sound, and Lyra's biometrics would spike dangerously. In the end, the committee granted special dispensation. The human who had given everything to save them could keep the one who wouldn't let go. Years later, when Tavi had grown into a magnificent specimen of his species, the first of a new generation that would save his kind from extinction, he would still sometimes curl up beside Lyra, now an admiral, and make soft chirping sounds in his sleep. And Lyra, who had once chosen to share her warmth in a frozen cargo bay, would smile and remember that some bonds transcend species, language, and even death itself. They were forged in sacrifice. In the moment when one being decided that another